Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be covering the top 5 best power spikes and how to use them in Age of Empires 2. And so by power spikes, it simply mean you get something that your opponent doesn't have yet and you have a window to take advantage of that fact. So let's go ahead and take a look at the top 5 list and it'll become very clear to you what I'm talking about here. Alright, starting off at number 5, we've got I try to keep these as generic as possible, but for number 5, it's somewhat of a specific scenario. It's basically in a tower rush game where there's villas on both sides, towers coming up, both players are open, it's very messy, and one guy gets the faster castle. This is a really important power spike because when it's a tower rush game, there's a lot of villas that are weak, low HP, there's a lot of villas that are exposed, and usually it means that there's no walls. Neither player is fully walled. And so whoever gets the faster castle is in a huge advantage. So if the attacker gets a fast castle, he can go for two things. He can go for a forward castle drop, and your opponent in feudal age has a really hard time stopping that. Right on the guy's TC, forward castle with like 10 vills, it goes up every time and you win the game. Or you can go for two stable knight switch, which would absolutely destroy someone who's open. And the key point here is that if you're the attacker in a tower rush, if you make the two stables forward near your opponent's base, he has less time to react to the stables or the knights. He might get a few spears, but that's about it, and you can destroy him with the two stable knights. If the defender gets a faster castle, it's also huge. He can go two stable knights to push back the aggression and to not allow the forward castle to come down, and he can actually clear up the entire opening. So this is huge. I know it seems specific that it's only in the tower rush game, but pretty much every single tower rush game comes down to whoever gets the faster castle age after the feudal age mess. The knights are so good in this position, less so the crossbows, less so the cav archers, because there's a lot of towers on the field. So knights, who are a bit more bulky, a bit tankier, are the better unit to go for in this scenario. Moving on to number 4, we yet again have the faster castle age as the timing window. So if you get the faster castle age and it's a neutral game, there's no aggression, you guys are far away from each other, you guys both have walls, and let's say it's an Arabia game, or let's say it's like a game of hideout or whatever, then I think the best way to take advantage of this power spike of getting to faster castle is by simply adding in town centers earlier. This sounds really stupid, but if you just add in a town center earlier, it's as if you killed your opponent's villagers, because you will get a vill lead by getting the town center earlier, and you're going to be pulling ahead in economy even without damaging your opponent. So if there's no chance to damage your opponent, but you have the faster castle age time, then adding in town centers is a great way to pull ahead, and it's actually a very guaranteed way to pull ahead, and it kind of forces your opponent to come attack you. The downsides of this is that it might put you on defense if you just add 2 town centers right away. It might put you on defense and he might come with a lot of army, but if you're okay with that situation, then you will be pulling ahead guaranteed in terms of economy, so all you have to do is hold the aggression and you'll be winning that game. The faster castle is such a big power spike, and I really want to put emphasis on how you can pull ahead in the different stages of the game when you do get the faster castle age. And just for a bit of context, I do a lot of coaching, and pretty much 9 times out of 10, if we get the faster castle age time, we're gonna win that game. It is the most important power spike in all of Age of Empires 2, and it's not talked about enough. So here I am talking about it. Faster castle with neutral game, add in your economy, add in your town centers, that's how you pull ahead, that's how you win that game. Moving on to number 3, and really pay attention to this one, guys, because this is probably the best information you'll ever get on this topic. At least it's the best information out there right now. Whenever you get an important upgrade, this is a huge power spike window. Listen, in Age of Empires, it's not whether you get something and your opponent doesn't. A lot of times it comes down to whether you get something in this moment and your opponent is 1 minute behind you on that same upgrade, or a similar upgrade for that matter. Just to give you an example, let's say you guys have knights on knights and one guy gets an extra upgrade a little bit earlier, then that guy with equal numbers will win the fight. Even if the other guy is 30 seconds behind on the same upgrade, he will lose that fight if you take it in that 30-second window. So this is why it's super important that when you get an important upgrade, you look to fight as soon as you get it. I'll give you the perfect example. No one can deny this, no one can argue against this, and it's very easy to understand how impactful this is when you look at this example. Let's take a look at a monk war, right? Monk versus monk. Every player, or each player, has 10 or 12 monks in the field. They're very committed to it. One guy gets atonement, which is the ability to convert enemy monks 10 seconds faster than the enemy player. Both players are getting atonement at a similar time. One guy gets it 10 seconds faster. The guy who gets it faster rushes to take the fight. He will get 10 seconds of free conversion onto the enemy monk player before the enemy monk player has atonement. Now, if the enemy monk player is sleeping and he's not, paying attention to this, then he will get all of his monks converted in that 10-second window. By the time he gets atonement, it doesn't matter. All his monks are completely gone, completely converted, and he lost the game entirely. And so as you can see a tech window of even just 10 seconds can sometimes dictate the entire game if you get it and force the fight when you get it. That is the key point. You can't just get it and then chill. You have to get it and force the fight. So it's really important. I cannot stress this enough. When you get an important upgrade for your military that you fight right away after getting it, this will completely change the way you play the game and will get you so many advantages. Alright, moving on to number 2. None are going to be as intense as the last one, but number 2 is probably the most important power spike in most games of Age of Empires. It's the faster castle age with crossbow. And I'll also talk about faster imp with arbalest and what these imply. Now, the faster castle with crossbow is such a big power spike because, number 1, crossbows are extremely difficult to deal with if you have only a feudal army. The only thing that can kind of deal with crossbows is feudal age skirmishers, but even then you need a good amount of skirmishers and good micro to deal with crossbows because crossbows will have an extra range and a lot of damage, or actually 2 extra range, and so it's really hard to fight them with just the skirmishers if they have crossbow and bodkin. So with 2 extra range, you're not going to close the gap easily. So crossbows will destroy feudal age units for the most part, but not only that, crossbows with bodkin have 7 attack. If they attack a palisade wall which has 5 pierce armor, they will deal 2 damage a shot. This is the first unit that can deal 2 damage to a palisade wall, which is a range unit, and that is huge because that's going to be, let's say, 10 crossbows dealing 20 per volley. They will break in quite quickly. If you add 20 crossbows dealing 40 per volley, they're going to break in even faster. They're basically breaking in twice as fast as the same number of archers, for example. And at this point, they also have enough range to where your opponent cannot wall behind with the market, which is they can do in feudal age if you just have archers. And so the faster castle age with crossbow is basically a guaranteed way to break into a player's base if they only have palisade walls. And this is a huge danger for the guy who's in feudal age. And this is why a faster castle age with crossbows is one of the best power spikes that you can take advantage with, because you don't die to feudal age armies, so you move out freely, you break the guy's palisade walls, and if he's not castle age, he will die for sure. He's got nothing to defend himself. The max he can do is a couple defensive towers or try to rush down some stone walls and keep himself safe. Both of those options are not good and keep him defensive for the whole game. I'll quickly talk about fast imp with arbalest as well. Fast imp with arbalest is a similar idea, but less power because at this point you can't really break through your opponent's defenses. If they have castles, arbalest are not going to do that much against the castles, for example. But one thing that I really like about the fast imp arbalest is that if the guy has a lot of knights on the field, getting to fast imp arbalest, you destroy him. Even if he has like 40 knights, it doesn't matter. Your ball of 40 arbalest will destroy all knights. You absolutely melt through them. And I think that's the best point about the fast imp arbalest. If you can get there before your opponent who's on cavalry, you can destroy your opponent before he has time to research cavalier and +4 armor once he gets imperial age. And that I think is the best part about the fast imp arbalest. Alright, before I show you guys number 1, I've got a quick honorable mention to talk about. We're going to talk about faster feudal to win scout fight or faster castle with eagle warriors. This is really important. If you get faster feudal age, what you want to do is very similar to like getting the important upgrade in number 3. You want to force the fight right away. So for those who don't know, if you get a faster feudal, your scout moves faster and gets an extra 2 attack. So if your opponent is still dark age and you got feudal age, try to find a scout and chase him down. You will run faster so you can chase him all the way down to his town center and kill him, and you deal more damage so he can't fight you. So you guaranteed kill his scout or at least take a good trade if you do this. Same concept in castle age. If it's eagle warrior on the field, you get +3 damage in castle age. So taking fights against villagers or against other eagle warriors or against anything really with that +3 attack as soon as you get castle is a really good way to use that power spike and a really good way to get some basically free advantage. It all comes down to the timing window. Moving on to number 1, we've got the best power spike in the entire game. This is single-handedly winning games and tournaments literally day in, day out. And it's the faster imp with a forward castle. This is one thing that you cannot let your opponent get. And this is one thing that you as a player should always try to do yourself. If you get faster imp and at the same time you have a forward castle, that is absolutely checkmate in 90% of cases, maybe even 95% of cases, because castle age units cannot break a forward castle. It is super difficult to do that. The max they can do is bring a lot of rams and army to defend it, and even then it's usually easy to repair a castle and kill the rams with villagers or with melee units or even with petards and keep the castle up. It's easier to do that than it is for the castle age player to break that castle. Not only that, but the forward castle will already weaken your opponent's economy quite a bit on its own. But why does the faster imp just absolutely destroy this position? The faster imp with the forward castle lets you get the trebs out, and imagine this: as soon as the treb comes out, just picture 16 tiles around that forward castle will will be absolutely destroyed by that trap. And that trap is sitting under the castle, so your opponent cannot really snipe it easily without losing units. So by getting the faster imp with the forward castle, you're doing damage with the castle, getting the trap out, which will destroy your opponent's base within 16 tower radius, and your opponent can only engage you under that castle, otherwise he cannot fight you at all because your trap is more than happy to sit there and cause havoc. This is so strong and probably the #1 way to win games. If you're struggling on winning games, guys, closing it out when you have an advantage, I get people asking me this all the time, try this. Get the army advantage, go forward, make a castle, then click up to imp. If you get faster than your opponent to Imperial Age, you basically guaranteed to win the game because the trap will do so much damage, safe under the castle, and your opponent will have just no counterplay. There is some counterplay, but we're gonna leave that for another video maybe. Don't want to reveal all the secrets in just one top 5 video, of course. Before ending the video, guys, I want to let you know that this was a viewer suggestion from my Twitch channel. I take what my viewers say seriously. So if you guys have suggestions for videos, drop them in the comments here on YouTube or come find me on Twitch and drop them there. If you guys want to check out my Twitch, obviously link in the description. We love to see you guys on the live stream. And if you guys want more educational content, check out my Patreon. Maybe I'll do a video on how to counter fast imp with forward castle on Patreon for my biggest supporters. But yeah, link in the description to those two, and I'll see you guys next time. Like, comment, subscribe as always, and peace.